everybody. Hope everybody's had a nice lunch. It's terrible being straight after lunch, you know, because basically, like you guys, you've had a nice lunch, everybody's feeling a bit sleepy. It's been a long day type of thing, and everybody sort of comes in slow later on, so we're about 5 minutes late, so apologies for that. We're going to talk about a case study that Marie and I have been working on with a customer, and it's exactly what the title says. It's about integrating and project controls. So before we start, a little bit about us. Marie?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So my name is Marie Trembacki. I am from Faithful+Gould. So some of you probably saw the presentation from my colleague Rod this morning. I work quite closely with Rod sometimes on project controls and project management. We're aligned. So I'm an experienced implementer of PPM process improvement. So that's project and program management process improvement. So we're looking at people, process and technology as that holistic improvement area. I focus on managing change successfully because, as we'll find out during the presentation, that's extremely important when you're making any changes in those areas. And I've got about 5 weeks to go.
So my name is Dave Hurren. I work for a company called RPCuk. We're an Oracle Primavera partner. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. I'm a certified implementation specialist for P6, which is a planning scheduling application, and also Unifier, which is the main focus of the presentation today. And to keep up with the wit, apparently I look like a famous wizard. But some people have been my presentation this morning and heard that already, so apologies for that. Okay, so we're going to give you a walk through about the topics, and really it's about a case study. It was a case study for an academic organisation within the UK, and we were there to deliver an integrated system, which consisted not just only of a software application, but Marie's going to talk to us about the processes involved in that and walk us through the type of strategy that was taken on. It was really around managing the contract and the supplier costs and integrating that with the schedule and resource management, and then being able to actually analyse all of that information together using off-the-shelf applications, nothing custom built but configured, but it was also in a controlled and regulated way.
Indeed, and just some of the benefits that we'll talk about as we go along, but benefits to the client include a visibility of projects from funding through budget, through to expenditure, the cost of change and forecast. So there's a lot that we'll cover in this presentation. Okay, so just a little bit about Faithful+Gould if some of you haven't heard of us or worked with us. So our aim is to protect and maximise our clients' interests throughout the planning and delivery of projects and programmes. And our services focus on project and program management, project controls, cost management, among others that you can see on the slide just there. There's also some stats on our business. I won't bore you with them too much, but you can see them there, demonstrating our global reach with a local focus point as well.
So a little bit about RPC, and in a moment we'll talk about the partnership between F&G and RPC, but we're an Oracle specialised Platinum partner within Oracle, focusing predominantly on the Primavera software applications and surrounding products, BI, database, etc., those types of products. We've been around for about 25 years or so. We also provide services that are training services for software usage for general users, but also technical software as well, database, etc., and some process training through APM. The consultancy side is predominantly around technology, so we implement and deploy software applications, and we've also provided hosted services as well. The reason why we believe, RPC, F&G believe that the partnership works really well is because through this partnership we're able to offer something that we believe a lot of other companies can't. We're able to offer something that's been tried and tested for many, many years with F&G's experience around process, governance, and understanding the business and where businesses function. But then from an RPC perspective, we're actually able to provide that very detailed technology skills that a lot of the companies that have the process background can't fulfill. And again, it means that both companies are actually working in what they're best at. So we're not trying to do processes because we don't know your businesses. But F&G are not trying to do technology. So the partnership works really well, and that's why we believe it works well for everybody.
Absolutely. So with regards to approach, so we have We have a standard approach at Faithful+Gould that we use. We start with assessing the current state of our clients who we work with and understand gaps between where they are now in terms of their project and program management, project controls processes, and where they might want to be. So this can include looking at the maturity of their organisational and processes, and really just doing that deep dive into what they're using at the moment and what potentially they could be using. So the output of that stage is an outline business case or scoping study with roadmap, timescales, costs, and resourcing needs. There's a real benefit of taking this approach initially with a lot of our clients because often our clients know that they've got an issue or a problem. They don't quite know what the answer is or how to actually get there in the end. So by actually guiding them through the journey of what they might need to actually progress towards, we're able to give them the tools to assess that, demonstrate that within their organisation so that they can actually justify the spend, the time, the effort, etc., that goes into actually delivering improvements within an organisation. So once the business case is actually signed off, just go back one. Once the business case is signed off, we'll then manage the remaining stages, which includes designing, implementing, providing aftercare. And it means that what we do implement or help our clients to implement is strategically aligned with their organisation's goals in terms of people, process and tools. And it really fits into their bigger strategic picture. So with regards to after our scoping study stage, and once our client is really understanding what they want to implement and how they want to get there, we actually manage the process of actually implementing their new processes, their new systems, sometimes even organisational structures like project management offices as well. Often today, we're going to touch a lot more on actually the system side of things, so you'll see that come out with David's piece. So in terms of our standard approach, we have, as you can see there, very much run like any other type of project with stage gates and different stages to progress through. So we'll start with planning, understanding strategic benefits, managing stakeholders and change, reviewing statements of work, and then we'll progress to actually design the solution for our clients. So once we've understood their requirements, we're able to actually create mock-ups and visual images of what their project management solution is going to look like. We then go ahead and build that and then test it with our clients to make sure that it actually does reflect their requirements and it gets that early stakeholder engagement in terms of a new system that they're all going to be using and adopting in due course. So they get that early engagement to see what they're going to be using, start to get really used to that so it's not going to be a shock at the end once we do start implementing and using it. During this whole process, we're very much focused on the change management piece of the situation. So, as my colleague Rod spoke quite a bit about this morning, cultural change management is really very important for implementing new processes, systems, tools, and getting that cultural change right is going to be the difference between making it successful and perhaps not. So our focus, having applied experience from our years of doing this across the world, actually. We've been working in the US doing this, the Middle East as well, Asia Pacific, and of course the UK and Europe. We found that really the same scenario happens everywhere. As long as you get everybody on board as much as you can during this process, in terms of engaging stakeholders, bringing them into requirement sessions and design workshops and testing, then that really does help to smooth the transition to using this eventually. So we do focus on transition plans, and then we focus very much on deployment and training, which we partner in as well, and the aftercare approach. So once a new solution is actually rolled out, we don't just run off and say good luck, enjoy that. We'll actually stick around for a while and provide some good support so that people can really adapt to using the system. And we do that by really working with them on the ground and helping them, training them as we go. So a bit about, before we talk a little bit more about our case study, some of the reasons why our clients are interested in these types of improvements. And our particular education client, these are the ones that actually came out a lot with them. So single source of truth across all projects. That's something when managing a large capital program of works that can be really challenging in terms of Everybody's doing things slightly differently. You've got lots of spreadsheets going around. But having that actually brought together into one single source of the truth is really the aim. Visibility of progress against program and expenditure, of course, that's major as well. Improved management of risk and time and cost contingencies and closer control over annual CapEx. Effective scenario planning at capital planning and delivery stages. Reducing time spent to compile reports, that's huge. A lot of project managers spend so much of their time every week spent crunching data. We want to try and make that as less of an impact as possible to their time. Of course, an audit trail of activity of each user of the system is a really great benefit for especially clients in education, public sector. They really need that audit trail. And enhanced governance through workflow functionality, which Dave will touch on quite a bit during this presentation. Okay. So the typical capital programme of work consists of a large number of projects, as you can see there. They're linked into discrete programmes often, with lots of interdependencies. They're often managed separately, and you've got disparate systems and processes that everybody's using in order to manage and deliver them. That can create quite a complicated situation. We've seen that both with our clients internally at Faithful+Gould. So in F&G, we of course have lots of great quantity surveyors and project managers, and they're all managing their own projects. We have the challenge as well of actually helping them to become more efficient, as well as helping our external clients also. Everybody loves a spreadsheet. It's flexible, you can control it easily, you can have loads of versions, as many as you like. It's a known quantity as well, and it's easy to share with others. So why not, stick with your spreadsheets? Well, there's some issues that can come with spreadsheets as well, such as manual data entry errors, version control. Who knows what the latest version is unless you're really keeping a spreadsheet tab of the versions. And then a manual approval process as well. How do you actually capture when something is approved? So certainly, when you're looking at a large capital program of work, there are some serious challenges of using spreadsheets, and we've come across situations where our clients have these wonderful spreadsheets, and they can do very well at many tasks, but you can also find some very serious errors in terms of contract management, capital expenditure in there, which costs a lot of money. So overall, with our clients, it's about really quickly understanding what type of help they need with their capital program, through delving into their current way of working, understanding their unique challenges, which they're going to have some unique ones, but a lot of the time they're quite similar. And then we address them through a program of improvement. So as you can see here, this is a typical current state which applied to our education client. So we have, the general ledger accounting, project accounting, and timesheets in a different system there. You have contract and change management done somewhere else. You have schedule and resource management, perhaps in a spreadsheet, perhaps in an MS project, who knows? And you have a variety of spreadsheets sitting on people's desktops. So that's just a real good pictorial view of how, when we go in and analyse the current state, we tend to see this type of picture, and this is certainly the case with our education client.
Okay, so some of the people that might have heard me talk about this in the past when we look at the technology and things like Primavera Unifier. So just bear with me, those people. But for those who haven't, really, Unifier is really used for and was used for in this particular study for around change management, governance, cost management, and process. Really, actually understanding the workflows, the budget, the funding aspect. And the way we did that was simply through being able to provide breakdowns and drillable capability within the tool to actually look at a cost structure inside the application. Just get back one, advance there. And really, for me as a technical person, it's quite obvious why that would be very useful to be able to drill down into your actual breakdown. But from a business perspective, I don't really know what the benefits are. Marie, you know those things.
Yeah, I better get closer to the mic again, hey? So really just, a lot of you will realise this, but having that traceability allows you to track those project costs at any stage of your project or programme life cycle. and any of the changes will be recorded and traceable. So when you get those difficult questions from senior management as to why, a cost has changed, why something actually evolved, you have that full, transparent audit trail to trace back and see exactly why that's happened.
So then being able to move in and look at individual records in Unify is just a standard capability once you start putting the data into it. And then you can move on to other things like looking at workflow. So for example, understanding where the current application is in the workflow. Has it moved along yet? Who's it with? Which person has sat with it or not actually actioning it? So again, from a technical perspective, it's really useful to be able to see that. And move forward within Unify, it's also a capability around auditing, and this is one of the benefits that the customer actually thought, was actually being able to trace backwards from individual date changes of data in particular processes all the way back to the individual user that actually did it. Again, from a technical perspective, it's obvious why that would be useful, complete auditing from top to bottom. From a business perspective, though, Marie's got knows more about that.
So I really think what we hear most often from our clients in this situation is having the ability to see who has changed what, provides that increased transparency for governance. It's not really about catching people out, but it's your ability to go back and ask questions and say, well, why was that changed? What was the situation there? And just interrogate the situation and find out a bit more. The ability to trace who made decisions and when is really good as well when you're managing larger teams, and if personnel changes, you can really see what actually occurred.
So then one of the other things with Unify is that it does give you that platform to put everything in the same place. So here, for example, we've got our contract which is accessible via a single click on a mouse button from a hyperlink. Again, that means that everything ends up being in one place. So this morning I talked about integrating from lots of different places. Someone mentioned about what about a platform to put something in? Again, I touched on the fact that Unify provides that, and this type of capability is there with these tools. Again, through integration, you can push the data in automatically. You can also import it in as well, by the way, but you can push it in automatically, giving you this capability. And it's really interesting from a technical perspective, being able to navigate as a user from a completely different element of the project information to something else without having to close things down, navigate there, open this up. So it's really quite useful from that perspective. And then when integration comes along, we start putting the accounting information in. We're able to actually see that information and use it in formulae inside the application. This is, again, one of the things that the university really liked. They were doing this in a spreadsheet, as some people probably are now, typing formula into spreadsheets, if this, then plus that with that, where Unify just does that from a simple configuration, just sort of the same way you build it in a spreadsheet. And it gives you the ability to not only take control data into the application, but also flexible data into the product as well, and actually marry the two things together. With regards to manual data entry fields, a question came up in the last talk was around, well, what if someone needs to just modify something, manipulate something, change something, because what if you're sharing this with your customer, client, or internal customers? Well, again, Unify gives you the ability to actually have manual entry data fields. So instead of having to take it out, then put it in a spreadsheet, modify it, and then put it back in again, you're actually able to do that all inside the cost sheet inside Unify. And again, from the case study perspective, the guys that we deploying this to, they're using spreadsheets all the time. So having this capability was a massive benefit for them from a user perspective.
Exactly, I was just going to say the same. So it's really about if somebody is used to that flexibility of having a column in their spreadsheet that they're used to for working out some sort of calculation that helps with perhaps earned value management or some other aspect of their project. If you take that away from them because it's not going to be the standard way forwards for the organisation, they may get a little bit unhappy about that, a little bit protective. So if you still maintain a little bit of flexibility, but yet have the holistic data coming up and rolling up to the higher level, and this new column that they're able to add and adjust doesn't affect that, then that's a really good balance in terms of managing the cultural change within the organisation.
So then moving on to something else we did after that, they wanted to look at resource management and schedule management. So the obvious answer from an Oracle person is put P6 in. Pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it does. We're not trying to make these applications do things they're not designed for, so we're making them do what they're best at. So again, anyone who's seen P6, there's apologies, old hat type of thing, but basically P6 is a schedule But from that schedule, we've got the ability to create an actual global or enterprise view of resourcing. And again, all it is create a plan, assign some people, and now we can see that Paul is working on those things. And that's one of the things that, again, that it seems strange to some people that maybe don't have that, but this customer, they didn't have that. They were using spreadsheets, they were using Microsoft Project, and that was probably the most advanced scheduling tool they had. Other than that, they were using spreadsheets. So again, this type of capability for them, and from a user perspective, I thought was very useful.
Yeah, and just to really understand the utilization at an enterprise level and seeing the load across projects and programs over that 5-year capital plan, for instance, gives them that the ability to really plan for, do they need to hire personnel in? Do they need to actually increase and take a look at their pipeline of contractors and consultants to deliver their services? So it really allows for that forward planning and the ability to look at scenarios and address, what are the options?
Yeah, one thing that we haven't actually put in the presentation, I think is worth mentioning, again, in the case study, and for this customer, they didn't really build things. They got things built for them, and they subcontracted that out. So they were hiring contractors, architects, etc. But actually, the ability to be able to figure out whether it should go to that person, either that company or that company, based on their resource capability and resource availability, actually helped them make the decision on which customer they appointed the work, which supplier they appointed that work to. So again, before, they did it in a spreadsheet. So then the bit that they really thought was quite sexy was the fact that we could actually join these two things together through, again, through the Oracle applications, through the integration gateway. So what happened there was all that resourcing they did got pushed into Unifier. And then in the rate, there was no cost in P6. There is no cost in P6 in this case study, this deployment. All the cost is actually in Unifier, using rates, schedules in Unifier. We were able to configure the gateway so that it created a project-specific resource, which you can't do in P6, but we can do that in Unifier. And basically, you were able then to push those costs directly to the cost sheet. And now in your mind's eye, imagine you're now seeing in a single sheet all of the governance, control data, the flexible fields that you've manipulated, modified accordingly, and then forecast information that's coming from a key and known rate schedule from your project plan as well. So then, moving forward, again, that's great, that's all data, fantastic, gives us this data we can see, but it doesn't actually then give us the wider visibility of reporting. So what we looked at there was with analytics, Primavera Analytics for that. Unify's got some capability inside it for dashboards. It's just a quick example of something we built for them. Looking at the cost sheet, the cash flow based on the cost sheet, so a little distribution based on the plan. But the main benefit for them was being able to actually create their own reports. So this is just a sample of one that we built. So basically creating their own reports, pulling data from different applications, but launching it from the Unifier product. And then really, that was okay, that went so far, but for them, they needed enterprise overview of the entire cash flow for a program or the entire company. And one thing we've put to them, and they're taking it, it's just time, is that the ability of using the Primavera Analytics application on the Oracle Cloud gives us this capability. You probably can't see, but on that top left-hand corner, that's actually their cost sheet, but across the entire program. So it's not individual cost sheets that we were looking at in Unify, it's across everything. So now we're able to see that. And then on top of that, the cash flow capability in analytics is giving them the ability to look at cash flow curves, individual projects, that's in Unifier, at the enterprise level, or the program level, or any other level about project groupings is then available in analytics for them to use. And this stuff, we didn't do anything to make that, that's just what's there. So again, that was their benefit as well. It must be there. We do not want to develop, we want to configure. So from a techie perspective, that's really useful that you can configure this and not actually develop it.
Exactly. No, I think you've covered it there, Dave. I was just going to add, obviously having company-wide generic cost and cash flow analysis is so important for these large capital programs of work, where you can really drill down as well into the detail level as and when is needed. Go down into the project level, but you can also see across any business units or any strategic areas of management. And I think you're absolutely right, it's the benefits. So I think if I didn't touch on that enough at the beginning, Our focus is very much addressing and identifying benefits that the client wants to achieve and managing those throughout the implementation. So if there's any kind of risk of scope creep, we'll take a look with the client and say, well, look, does that feed into one of your strategic benefits that you want to achieve from this implementation? And then we'll take it, and address that and see if it's something that it does need to be changed, ordered in. Otherwise, it's about very much realizing the benefits once things are implemented. So we will come back and address that with the client and make sure that all of their benefits are being realized. And if not, if there are some issues, then we address those as well with them. And we just keep addressing that cultural change management.
Then the final piece in the jigsaw for them is around the core capital plan and portfolio. And where we haven't done this yet, this is where we're going with these guys. But the strange thing is this is where we're going with them, but they like to take small steps, which is understandable. But their key driver for all of this is a capital plan, being able to do a 5-year rolling capital plan. And we're looking at we're promoting the use of the Primavera Prime application for this, and it'll give them the remainder of the capability. But at the moment, because obviously that's not there yet, didn't want to explain or show you that. There's no point showing you something that's not there. So again, that's the direction for these guys.
Yeah, and just to recap, we've got the benefits there again, so you can see the reasons why they want to go towards that direction there. And you can just see in the bubbles as well, so efficient management of capital plan, and you've got, can't see it on the screen there, but accurate and transparent program finance, empowering the customer and providing full flexibility, and evidence-based decision-making. Those are really key strategic areas where our client and a lot of our clients that we've worked with globally in the US and the Middle East have really wanted to get to. And that's what we do, help them to get there.
Thanks. So because we weren't really too sure how much time we were going to get, we did actually take a couple of bits out, but I think I'm going to just quickly add back in again. So basically, this is the type of thing they're going to move to. So what we're doing now, it's not in this case study, it's in another case study, but the point is that probably up until this point, anyone who's ever heard myself definitely talk about Unify, it's always been about cost. Configuration platform, somewhere to put everything into. But in actual fact, we're building things now for another customer that's significantly more than that. And I wanted to just bring it up because it just gives you guys, from a technical perspective, to try and start sowing the seed that Unifier is significantly more than just a cost product. So what we're building is a capability in Unifier, and it's been proof of concept. They're going through, hopefully they're going to accept it. And we get a project that's got a slippage. So the project schedule has slipped, yeah? Okay, fine. For this organization, that's not good enough. They need to understand why it slipped, and then they need to implement actions in order to correct that. And all of that has to be passed by the Department of Defense. Every single action that gets created, every single reason why it slipped, it needs to get approved and reviewed by their customer, their client. And through Unifier, what we're able to do is actually take that data via the integration and post it directly from P6 into Unifier. Through configured platform in Unifier, it's actually automatically creating things called VARs, Variance Analysis Report. That's the fact it's a variance. And then automatically creating the actions that need to be completed in order to correct it. It's then automatically routing that round to the individuals that need to actually complete the actions. So from an audit capability, thinking back to the previous slides, the Department of Defense are then able to see that this was raised because of this reason, this action. This person is sat with that person to complete. It was raised because of this threshold variance. And that is the type of auditing capability that this customer needs to be contractually compliant. So again, it's just to emphasize that point that Unify is not just a cost application. For this case study it is, but for others it's not. On top of that, something that we're working on at the moment is driving the schedule from processes. So something that the university are interested in, but they haven't quite got their head around yet, is if I create a process and I define a duration against that process, and I'm updating that process, and it's to maybe buy something, maybe it's a piece of equipment, well, why do I have to then type that information into my project schedule to reflect that? Why can't I get it to do it for me? And that's what we're building. That's what we've built and build it. The process item number 6 takes longer than expected, and so does the schedule, the task associated with that. And again, all of that is done through the Unifier application with its integration to P6, all standard type of config. But again, it's in some respects just something that's not this case study, but is others. But just to try and get people's understanding, now people are starting to get Unifier can do this, what else can it do? And this is one of the major benefits for this case study, for this customer that we've been talking about. They're not just looking at what we can get out of it now, but what can we then get out of it later down the line. And that's really important for them. So, apologies for the break in the middle. Hopefully it's okay. We're more or less done. So if there's any questions you've got, then please fire them away. If it's anything really complicated on the business side, then Maria has to answer that. That's too complicated for me.
You can do the techie bits.
I'll just do the computer stuff. So yeah, any questions, anybody? Nobody?
Has anyone actually worked with Primavera Unifier out of interest in the room? One.
Someone over there. Has anyone seen it? Anyone actually seen it? Anyone actually used the product at all? Anyone know anything about it other than what we just talked about, yeah? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to pick on you, unfortunately. You raised your hand. So what have you seen? What have you used? What have you been told it can do? Oh, you helped develop it? Fantastic, awesome.
F&G, yeah.
Right, okay. Right. Okay, cool. So you know that some of the stuff we're talking about, it's not just me saying it's doable, it actually is all doable, yeah? Anybody else? Thank you for that.
So I have a question about the integrating cost and schedule. In P6, we're at the activity levels, and in the unifier, we have the cost information from an estimate. So sometimes when we broke down the project scope into activity level, the cost for that specific activities may come from the cost from several items in the cost estimate. How to deal with that?
Okay, so basically the way that the platform deals with it is that the first thing you don't do is you don't put your costs in P6. As simple as that. Your costs reside in Unifier. It may sound a bit odd to some people that use P6. But the way you deal with that is, again, the capability of the integration gateway. What it allows you to do is it allows you to pull down from Unifier your cost breakdown structure. And then what it allows you to do is actually attach those individual structures to many activities in your P6 schedule or just one of them, and you choose. But it gives you the ability to not have to plan your projects the way you break your costs down. And then through the integration gateway, you can choose what data you send back over to Unifier, whether it's actually the detailed resource data that goes across, or whether it's actually just the scheduled dates that come across. And the gateway summarizes that by the cost breakdown structure node, gives you a start and finish date, also does it for the baselines as well. And at that point then, Unifier starts to calculate those curves that we saw based on not just a monthly basis, but down to the individual day. So it specifies this many units in that day for that CBS node. So that's how it does it. And that's how we would do it. Thank you for the question. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.